Hey guys, I am Donald Trump. Today I am with Kane. Hi.
Hey there, what can I do for you?
Are you happy in WWE? Are you more happier as the mayor?
Yeah, I'm much happier. It was a big shock to everyone when I became mayor of Knox County, TN, but that was 7 years ago. I love being able to work for and help the people of Knox. It's a great place to live. As for WWE, I miss being in the ring at times, but my age means my body wouldn't cope with a full-time schedule anymore.
As mayor, what is your big plans?
At the moment, we've been discussing with the city council on what to do with old buildings that have been left to rot, as well as looking into ways to improve the infrastructure, particularly for bikes and pedestrians. We're also looking at ways to boost the entertainment scene in downtown Knoxville, as well as ways to support and invest in small and new businesses.
What was your childhood?
My childhood was pretty normal up until the age of 9. I lived with my father, Paul Bearer, and my brother, The Undertaker. We had a dog named Pepper. After my father got very ill, The Undertaker took over as the man of the house. Then it all changed when our house caught fire, and I came out of the fire with my body scarred and disfigured. I was sent to live in a mental institution. My life and relationship with my brother changed, and my life was never normal again.
I'll meet Terry Potch.
Terry Pope, well, she used to have a wrestling gimmick called the Cat, where she'd be one of Jerry Lawler's cats in the Jerry Springer style segments in the ring. She was then sent to WWF. At the time, she was dating the Road Dogg Jesse James, but one day he left her. That's when I saw an opportunity. I stepped in with a rose and things escalated from there.
Is that Kane mask hot? You got used to it.
My mask was originally leather, and when I first started in WWF, I was wrestling in the very heavy and very hot version of Kane's uniform. It definitely took time to get used to. Nowadays, my mask is fabric, so much better. And now all the extra padding is gone from my uniform, so I get much more airflow on my body. It can still be a bit hot, but much more bearable now.
Are you coming back to WWE?
My body is 57 years old. I've been wrestling since the early 90s, so my body physically can't cope with the bumps and travel required to be on the road again. I had a torn ACL just from one choke slam, and I can't imagine what else could happen given my age.
The U.S. at Great Khali, WrestleMania 23. Can you take me back to this match?
That match happened in 2007. It was one of the best moments of my career. I was having a great match with the Great Khali, and the fans were really energized. I remember putting on one hell of a show, taking everything Khali had and coming out on top, beating him in front of all the fans at WrestleMania.
You versus Kurt Angle, WrestleMania X8.
That match happened in 2002 at WrestleMania X8. It was a great match between two great competitors. It was my third WrestleMania match and my first championship match. In the end, I came out on top and became the World Heavyweight Champion.
UV, King Booker, Falls, Count Anywhere, match SmackDown, Feb 23, 2007.
Now that was a match. My first Falls Count Anywhere match, and it certainly lived up to its name. It was chaos, to say the least. I took King Booker to the locker room. I took him to the production truck. I even took him to the kitchen, which is when Booker hit me with a chair. In the end, I got the pin and the win, but it was a brutal match.
You versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WWE title match Raw, June 29th, 1998.
That match, that was a rough one. I was still pretty new in WWF, and I was up against the biggest name in the company, Stone Cold Steve Austin. We went toe-to-toe in the ring, and it was intense. At one point, I threw Austin into the back of a pickup truck. Later in the match, I slammed his head into a gurney. It was a brutal fight, but in the end, Austin got the pin and the world championship.
Undertaker versus Rock versus Rikishi versus Fatal 4-Way match, SmackDown Jan 11-2001.
It was a crazy match. All four of us in the ring at the same time. It was chaotic and intense. There was a lot of violence and even some betrayal as The Undertaker and Rikishi teamed up against me and The Rock. In the end, The Rock got the pin and won the match. It was a hell of a fight, that's for sure.
Rey Mysterio versus you, no holds barred match, WWE Cyber Sunday 2008.
That was a wild match, I'll tell you that much. Rey Mysterio is an extremely talented wrestler, and the fact that it was a no-holds-barred match made things even crazier. We trashed the ring, we trashed the stage, and even the announcer's table. There was violence everywhere. In the end, I got the pin and walked away with the win.
Why did you choose Last Word, Rosebud?
That was a time in my career where I was really connecting with fans and growing my character. Calling someone a Rosebud was a way of embracing the fans, of inviting them on board, and making them feel like they're part of something bigger. It was a way of showing my appreciation for the fans, and the fact that they were willing to follow me. They were my Rosebuds.
Undertaker and Austin versus you and Mankind versus DX versus Rock and D'Lo Brown Raw. OG, 10-1998.
That was a match for the history books. It was an 8-man tag team match, an action-packed brawl featuring some of the biggest names in WWF at the time. The Rock, The Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and even D'Lo Brown. The entire match was a chaotic frenzy of violence. We threw each other into the ring and the outside of the ring. We brawled through the backstage area and even spilled out into the parking lot.
What's one match that you hated to do?
There are a few matches that come to mind, but one that sticks out in particular was my match against Pete Gas in 2002. Gas was a wrestler who was part of a group called the Mean Street Posse, who was generally comedic and had little wrestling ability. My match against him was in fact not entertaining at all. I remember thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing wrestling a guy like this? It was the definition of a filler match.
Do you miss Team? Hell no.
Team Hell No was an interesting team, to say the least. Bryan Danielson and I had a very dysfunctional partnership. We constantly bickered, and he was always getting on my nerves. Despite all of that, we did manage to win the WWE Tag Team Championship, and we had some intense matches as a team. I don't miss the bickering, but I do miss the camaraderie and the battles we fought together in the ring.
You was in See No Evil. You played as Jacob Goodnight.
Yes, that's correct. I played the role of Jacob Goodnight in the movie See No Evil. Jacob was a serial killer and the main antagonist of the movie. He was a vicious and sadistic character who terrorized his victims with his strength and skill in the dark. It was definitely a different kind of role for me, but it was fun to explore a darker side of human nature.
What the funniest scene with Corey Parker Robinson and Tim McDonald and Trent Hewen and Matt O'Keefe?
Kane chuckles, clearly remembering the scene fondly. Oh, I know the one you're talking about. It was a scene where we were all sitting around a poker table, and I had this epic hand of cards. I was just taunting them and gloating about my hand, and they just looked so defeated. They were trying to get me to show my hand, but I was just messing with them. It was a hilarious moment, and I always look back fondly on those days on the set of See No Evil.
But the hardest scene with Sam Cotton?
Without a doubt, the hardest scene to film was the final scene where I confront and fight Cotton. It was a brutal fight, with lots of physical stunts and intense emotion. It took a lot of practice and focus to get it right, and I was definitely pushing myself to the limit physically and emotionally.
He was in See No Evil 2, The Return of Jacob Goodnight.
That's right, I returned as Jacob Goodnight in See No Evil 2. In this sequel, I played the same sadistic killer, but this time around I was back for revenge. I came back to wreak havoc in a new place with a new set of victims.
What the funniest scene with Kaj Erickson?
We had a funny moment on set where we were filming a scene in a dark hallway and the lights kept flickering and going out. We were trying to film the scene and Erickson kept making jokes about it being haunted. It was funny because we were in this dark, creepy location and he was just cracking jokes and making light of the situation. It definitely broke the tension and made the whole scene more enjoyable.
But the hardest scene with Reese Alexander and Kelly Ruth Mercier?
The hardest scene to shoot with Reese Alexander and Kelly Ruth Mercier was definitely the scene where I chase after them through the dark hallways of the film's setting. It was a physically demanding scene as I had to run, jump, and climb while trying to keep up the intensity and fear factor. It took a lot of takes to get it just right, and both Reese and Kelly Ruth did an excellent job with their performances.
What your favorite match in that could be?
ECW was a very different wrestling promotion than what I was used to in the WWF. It was a lot more gritty and hardcore, and the matches were definitely more intense. My favorite match in ECW was probably against Mike Awesome. It was a no disqualification, no holds barred match, and we went at each other with everything we had. It was a brutal brawl, and the crowd was completely fired up. Awesome was a tough competitor, and it was a battle that I remember fondly.
He was in Scooby-Doo, WrestleMania Mystery. You play his wrestler name.
That's right, I played a wrestling character in Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery. My character was actually named the Masked Avenger, and I fought against the villain known as Captain Zombie. It was a fun animated romp through the world of wrestling and Mystery Inc.
He was in Countdown. You play as Late Cronin.
Yes, that's correct. I played the role of Lieutenant Cronin in the movie Countdown. In the movie, a team of U.S. soldiers fights to survive after they're left stranded on an island while training. Cronin is one of the soldiers and serves as the leader of the group.
But the funniest scene with Dolph Ziggler on Countdown?
There was a scene where we were stranded on the island and we were trying to start a fire. Dolph was having a lot of trouble with the matches and was getting frustrated. He was yelling and complaining about the wind and the firewood, and it was just funny to watch him get so worked up over something so simple.
with the hardest scene with Catherine Isabel.
The hardest scene to shoot with Catherine Isabel was one involving a cave-in. It was an intense scene because we had to film the scene while balancing on top of some very unstable cave formations. It took a lot of focus to stay balanced and deliver our lines, but thankfully Catherine handled it like a champ, and we were able to get the shot and wrap up the scene.
WWE Bad Blood 2004, you versus Chris Benoit, World Heavyweight Championship.
The match between me and Chris Benoit was a brutal and intense battle for the World Heavyweight Championship. The match took place at WWE Bad Blood 2004 and was a classic example of a hard-hitting and technical exhibition, with both Benoit and me putting on a show for the fans. In the end, I managed to pin Benoit and win the championship in a hard-fought match.
The Undertaker versus you, Inferno match. WWE Unforgiven, In Your House 1998.
That match was a hell of a battle, that's for sure. It was an Inferno match, which meant that the ring and the entire environment were set on fire. It made for an intense and brutal match, as we had to fight through fire and smoke while trying to pin each other. In the end, I managed to come out on top, winning the match. It was a memorable moment for both of us, and it remains a classic match in WWE history.
U.S. The Great Khali, WrestleMania 23.
At WrestleMania 23, I faced off against the towering Great Khali in a match that pitted the technical prowess of a seasoned veteran against the sheer power of a giant. It was a clash of styles and techniques, as I tried to use my speed and agility against Khali's brute strength. In the end, I managed to come out on top, pinning Khali in a hard-fought match.
You versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WWE title match, Raw, June 29, 1998.
My match against Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWE Championship was an epic battle that remains etched in the memories of WWE fans. It was a match that pitted two of the biggest stars in WWE at the time against each other. The match was intense and brutal, with both of us going blow for blow and fighting to be the last man standing. In the end, I managed to get the pin on Austin and win the WWE Championship, marking a major milestone in my career.
U.S. Kurt Angle, WrestleMania X8.
At WrestleMania X8, I had the opportunity to face off against the intense and focused Kurt Angle in a match that pitted my strength against his technical prowess. The match was a back-and-forth affair, with both of us using our individual strengths to outsmart and outmaneuver each other in the ring. In the end, I managed to come out on top and pin Angle in a hard-fought match. It was a great moment for me, and a solidifying victory in my career.
UV's King Booker, Falls Count Anywhere, match, SmackDown, Feb 23, 2007.
The Falls Count Anywhere match against King Booker was a chaotic and unpredictable affair, with the match taking place all over the arena. The match was filled with violence as we brawled through the backstage area, the locker rooms, and even the audience, all while trying to pin each other and earn the victory. In the end, I managed to pin Booker and win the match, cementing my dominance and continuing my streak of victories.
Triple H versus UDU, World Title versus Mask match, Raw, June 23, 2003.
My match against Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship was a highly anticipated matchup that pitted two legendary wrestlers against one another. The stipulation for the match was that I had to put my mask on the line, adding an extra level of intensity to the contest. Throughout the match, I fought hard and used all my skills to try to outmaneuver Triple H, who was fighting just as fiercely to retain his title. In the end, Triple H managed to get the pin and retain the title, leaving me without my mask.
Undertaker versus the epic 20-year rivalry.
The rivalry between me and The Undertaker was a legendary one, spanning over 20 years and encompassing some of the most iconic moments in WWE history. Our matches were always intense and brutal, with both of us using our unique styles to try to gain the advantage over the other. We fought each other in some of the biggest matches of our careers, and the sheer intensity and spectacle of our matches made them some of the most memorable moments in WWE history.
UV's The Big Show Raw, May 08, 2006.
My match against The Big Show was one for the ages. The Big Show was a man-mountain, standing over 7 feet tall and weighing well over 400 pounds. But I was not intimidated, and I came into the match ready to give him a run for his money. Throughout the match, I used my speed and agility to outmaneuver The Big Show, ducking and dodging his powerful attacks while trying to wear him down. But The Big Show was not to be underestimated, and he fought back hard, using his sheer size and strength to try to overpower overpower me.
Rey Mysterio versus you, no holds barred match, WWE Cyber Sunday 2008.
My match against Rey Mysterio on WWE Cyber Sunday 2008 was a brutal and intense affair, as the stipulation was a no-holds-barred match, meaning that anything goes. The match was a chaotic melee with both of us using whatever we could find to try to gain an advantage over the other. Despite Mysterio's agility and quickness, I managed to use my strength and size to my advantage, tossing him around the ring and using everything from chairs to tables in my quest to get the win.
Story of you versus imposter, Kane Vengeance 2006.
My match against an imposter Kane at Vengeance 2006 was a bizarre and twisted chapter in my career. The imposter Kane was a doppelganger who had been taunting me and my family for weeks leading up to the match. When we finally faced off in the ring, the match was a chaotic and unpredictable affair, as the imposter Kane used my same moves and tactics against me, making it hard to differentiate between the two of us. In the end, I managed to get the win, but the experience left me shaken and confused.
Kevin Nash on why we didn't need to see you vs Nash.
Well, Kevin Nash is entitled to his opinion, but I disagree. I believe that a match between the two of us would have been an opportunity for an intense, hard-hitting affair between two talented wrestlers. Both of us were known for our dominance and technical prowess in the ring, and a match between us would have showcased that. Unfortunately, it's something that never happened, but one can imagine the spectacle it would have been.
Story of John Cena versus you at Royal Rumble 2012.
My match against John Cena at the Royal Rumble in 2012 was a clash between two of the biggest names in WWE at the time. The match was a highly anticipated event, with both of us fighting hard to come out on top. Cena was a technical powerhouse, and he used his speed and agility to try to outmaneuver me. But I was not to be underestimated. My strength and endurance allowed me to push through the match and take whatever Cena threw my way. In the end, I managed to get the pin and take home the victory.
Sting versus you and WCW.
My match against Sting in WCW. It was a classic example of the intensity and brutality that was found in WCW at that time. Sting was an enigmatic and imposing figure with his black and white face paint and flowing blonde hair. We fought in the ring like there was no tomorrow, using all our skills and tricks to try to get the upper hand. The match was memorable, and I remember it well. Despite the intensity of the bout, Sting and I had mutual respect for each other, and it was an honor to face him in the ring.
You vs The Rock W/The Corporation, January 18th, 99.
My match against The Rock, who was a part of the corporation at the time, was a classic example of the high stakes and no-holds-barred matches that were common in the WWF during that era. The match was filled with violence and intensity, with The Rock using his charisma and the corporation's numbers to try to get an advantage over me. Despite the odds, however, I managed to come out on top and pin The Rock, solidifying my place in the hierarchy of the WWF.
Mankind versus you, Hell in a Cell match. Raw, 24/1998.
Oh man, my match against Mankind in a Hell in a Cell match on Raw in 1998 was absolutely wild. The match was a brutal and violent affair, with both of us going at each other with everything we had. Mankind was a madman willing to put his body on the line over and over again. I had to bring every ounce of my strength and endurance to withstand his assault. The final moments of the match are still vividly etched in my memory, as I watched from outside the cell as Mankind plummeted off the top of the cell and into the announcer's table.
Story of you versus X-Pac Armageddon 1999.
My match against X-Pac at Armageddon 1999 was a brutal and intense affair, as we fought in a battle that showcased both our physical and mental strength. As part of the Ministries of Darkness storyline, both of us had much at stake. The match was filled with violence and intensity, with both of us using every trick in the book to try and gain an advantage over the other. At one point, we even ended up in the stands, brawling across the arena. Despite the chaos, I managed to come out on top and secure victory.
Story of you versus Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell 2015.
The match against Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell in 2015 was a battle that tested not only my physical strength, but my mental fortitude as well. Rollins was a talented and determined wrestler, and he came into the match with a fire in his eyes. The cage itself was imposing, the high metal walls creating a sense of claustrophobia and danger. The match was brutal and intense, with Rollins using every ounce of his skill and speed to try and take me down. I had to dig deep and draw upon my experience and endurance to withstand his onslaught.
You vs Brock Lesnar, Universal title match.
My match against Brock Lesnar for the Universal title was a battle between two of the toughest and most powerful wrestlers in the industry. Lesnar was a beast, with his sheer strength and intensity unmatched by almost anyone. He came into the match with a chip on his shoulder and a determination to claim the championship. The match was a battle of brute force and stamina. We fought with everything we had, and the sheer physicality was a sight to behold. In the end, Brock Lesnar emerged victorious, but it was a hell of a fight.
Lesnar versus Strowman versus Universal title, triple threat match, Royal Rumble 2018.
My match against Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman in a triple threat match for the Universal title at the Royal Rumble in 2018 was a brutal and chaotic spectacle. Both Lesnar and Strowman were powerhouse wrestlers, and they came into the match with everything to prove. The match was a wild and unpredictable affair, with all three of us using our size and power to battle it out for the championship. Despite the odds, I gave it everything I had, but in the end, Lesnar came out on top, retaining the Universal title.
Why stop doing movies?
After a while, I realized that my passion and my true calling was in professional wrestling. I had a lot of fun doing movies, don't get me wrong, but wrestling was where my heart was at. I wanted to focus on my career in the ring, and I knew that I needed to dedicate all my time and energy to it. So I made the tough decision to step away from acting and dedicate myself fully to my wrestling career. It was a difficult choice to make, but it was the right one for me, and I never regretted it.
As a mayor, what's the one thing that you wish you could add?
If there's one thing I could add to Knox County as mayor, it would be more investment in public parks and recreational facilities. Knox County is home to some beautiful natural landscapes, and I believe that our community would greatly benefit from having more places to enjoy the outdoors and stay active. I would like to see more funding allocated towards building and maintaining parks, as well as community centers and other recreational facilities. This would not only provide a space for residents to be active and socialize, but would also be a draw for tourists and visitors to the area.
You made a book about Mayor Kane, My Life in Wrestling and Politics.
That's right, I've actually written a book called Mayor Kane, My Life in Wrestling and Politics. It's a memoir that goes into detail about my life and career, from my early days in the ring in the WWF to my time as mayor of Knox County, TN. It covers all the ups and downs, the good times and the bad, and gives a personal insight into my life as both a wrestler and a politician.
It is your thought when you saw it on Amazon.
When I first saw my book on Amazon, I was incredibly proud and humbled. It's something that I poured my heart and soul into, and to see it out in the world for others to read and enjoy was a really great feeling. I hope that people who read the book find it honest and interesting, and maybe even inspirational in some small way.
Where you ended up after your wrestling career, you're the mayor of Knox County. You're curious to know how your career changed from wrestling to politics, came about, and if you has any plans to return to the ring?
My transition from professional wrestling to politics was a pretty natural progression, in a way. I've always been interested in community service and public policy, and I had many opportunities to get involved in local politics while I was still wrestling. After I retired from wrestling, I decided to pursue a career in politics more seriously. I ran for office and was elected as mayor of Knox County, and I've been serving in the role ever since. As for returning to wrestling, I don't have any plans for that at the moment.
How did you get the name of the Big Red Monster?
The Big Red Monster stemmed from my portrayal as a demonic, physically imposing villain with a red-lit theme song and stage fire. I was also known as the Big Red Machine and the Devil's favorite demon. The Big Red part likely refers to the color association with my character's demonic nature and my entrance, which was often accompanied by red lighting and pyrotechnics.
Well, Kane, thanks for coming, man. Enjoy your mayor on Knox County.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.